Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today we've got the pleasure of watching 6Q9 playing in the BT-42. This is the latest of the girls and panzer tanks that went into the game about a month or two ago, and this vehicle is already a bit of a meme inside World of Tanks, and apparently it was a bit of a meme in real life as well. This is the only kind of finished tank that's inside the game. It's a captured Soviet hull, putting an absolute horrendous turret on it and giving it a derpy gun. These vehicles were apparently awful in real life. I think there were about 10 to 20 of them, and I think one of them even still remains. And after playing around with this inside the game, I kind of want to see where it is. If is it in Finland? Hopefully in some kind of museum. Even more reason to go to embrace, like, to the Torilla Tavatan and the Sormi Manitou. You know what? Finland is being recognized quite a lot. What was it in one of my videos just a couple of days ago, or a week ago, with me announcing about joining a clan for the first time in 10 years, and then already we're talking about the only real finished tank inside the game, right? So it's interesting, but 6Q9, I must immediately talk about their equipment choice here. So this tank that has horrendous damage per minute, which 6Q9 is looking to improve, and it also has pretty awful gun handling. It's got 0.3 when moving and 0.16 when turning the turret. And so 6Q9 is improving it by using a rotation device, and also using, I think, that the first person ever featured on this YouTube channel who has decided to use, I'm gonna have to check the name, it's called a fire control system. Yeah, I think that's how relevant at least it feels for me. So the fire control system actually replaces the gun laying drive inside World of Tanks. At level 3 like this, which is a really unusual thing to see, it's providing 9% improved aiming speed, but it is also improving the dispersion when you're moving and when turning the turret by 11%. So it's kind of like half of a regular vertical stabilizer plus nearly all of the effect of a gun laying drive outside of a firepower slot. And so that means that 6Q9 is able to get some cheeky shots with ferocity here. The only thing I will say is that this vehicle can use vertical stabilizers, and why you wouldn't want to use vert stabs that improve the gun handling by 20% on this tank, and that's without having some kind of fancy experimental equipment bonus, you know, of having to level it up to level 3. Kind of confuses me. Personally, for me, I would use vert stabs on this rotation, and then maybe something like vents or an aiming device, and oh dear. Well, this is a little bit awkward. Our hero today, XQ9, 6Q9, oh my god, I might as well have called them XQC at this point, right? Oh dear, I wonder if the juices are going to be in chat. 6Q9 has managed to flip their vehicle. Not flipping their desk, in this case. Although I tell you what, back in the day, in World of Tanks, that would have been a desk flip moment. Or at least you'd have to then start typing in chat to try and communicate, which is usually a little bit of a tricky thing to some of your allies to see what is going to happen and whether they're going to help you out. But these days, you know, it doesn't matter if you get yourself stuck or you flip yourself, you drive like a donkey. The game is just going to say, that's okay, you can drive like a donkey and still, at least in this case, go on to have an absolute staggering game. So you'll see that this BT-42 is doing some absolute wild stuff here. Look at these shots, and that's because this vehicle has a 114mm caliber gun that has 3 different flavors of ammunition, 2 kinds of heat, of which 6Q9 is only using the premium variety with 125mm of pen, and high explosive rounds can hit for 440. This vehicle is kind of like the VK back in the day at Tier 5, the 2801, which used to have the 105mm at Tier 5 before Wargaming removed it, bumped it up to Tier 6, and then eventually gave it back to us as a reward for playing the game a lot. Although the heat rounds these days, limited to 100, pale in comparison to what they used to be at 150mm of pen. If you want to see what the VK2801 was capable of back in 2012, there's a video on this channel of that in my Before It Was Nerfed series, so you can go and see what the vehicles were like literally like 12 years ago. Terrifying to think about. And that held my experience record on my account for like 10 years before I managed to update it in the Lanson twice, and then managed to top that with the filthy Churchill 3. So the fact that the BT-42 does have access to heat rounds that do have 125mm of pen, well, that's not like the 150 that a light tank at Tier 5 used to have back in the day. It's kind of halfway there compared to what it is now, and so that means that when you get into a nice matchup like this, 125 millimeters of pen is more than enough to be able to club through even heavy tanks. And 6Q9 is definitely clubbing their way through heavy tanks here. They've already done 1,600 damage. This would be a fabulous game, like a really good one for every single tier 5 light. But I tell you what, 6Q9 is not even halfway done with what they're going to have to do to be able to pull off the victory here. That's if it is going to happen. This one is going to get very, very tense. So, the BT-42 in this situation, this thing has the worst turret traverse of any vehicle, I believe, in the entire game. Its turret traverse is absolutely horrendous. It's 14 degrees a second, worse than like a mouse, for example, or an E100. And so it kind of baffles me that 6Q9 might not want to try and take the experimental turbo, for example, to be able to further improve the rotation speed of this turret and to have that bloom. But they've gone for the aim time improvement mixed with the gun handling, which is interesting because this vehicle, it's not the aim time that sucks on it. Its aim time is 2.7. That's not great in World of Tanks, but it's not bad for such a high alpha damage gun. So 6Q9 putting a fantastic shot right into the side of the Churchill there, and literally like pretty much taking off a third, if not half, the hit points of all of the vehicles that this tank is able to enter. It's an absolute beast within that regard. And its power to weight ratio is over 33 horsepower, which means that while it doesn't have a great top speed limited to 52, it has the grunt in the engine to outmaneuver its opponents. And this KV-1 trying to go after the artillery, are they going to have immense regret? Oh, no, they're not, as the shot goes into the track and fails to hit the hull. Okay, things are starting to look pretty bleak as the Churchill puts a shot into the side of 6Q9. Turns their attention towards the Su-85, doesn't quite have the gun depression until they reverse up with the auto-aim, finishing off the tier 5 Soviet tank destroyer, and now looking for, as Mika says, their next prey. Where is the next prey going to be? Well, it looks like maybe 6Q9 is going to have to possibly either support the KV-1 who's up on the hill, or alternatively, at this stage of the battle, do you go and try and get the RNG out? And considering that's a full health T1 heavy that's just wandering their way towards them, yeah, a little bit of evasion would be necessary. But, oh, hello, Churchill. Oh, wow. 6Q9 manages to put the shot in early there to avoid taking a shell from the Churchill, avoids taking a hit from the T1 heavy, also narrowly avoids the self-propelled gun that would have done horrible things to this tank's 20 millimeters of hull armor and 16 millimeters of HE protection on the turret. That would have definitely gone in. Any kind of an artillery shell landing on this tank is going to pretty much one-shot it. Yeah, you know, all the FE300, the three FE304 drivers out there, or alternatively the Leffe players were playing this thing a lot, or playing against this thing a lot, I should say. Oh man, that is just wonderful to one-shot a Gorilla and to have that many hit points. Usually when you're playing a tier 5 light tank, you have to go in against them and trounce them like 4 or 5 times, and oh gosh, no, whoa, that was about as clutch as it gets. 6Q9 only just managing to get the reticle on that Gorilla before finishing them off, showing you why it's great to improve the gun handling of this tank with the rotation device and with that fire control system. But I must add that they are getting less gun handling from both of those pieces of equipment than they would if they just used the vert stabs. Now, sure, they're improving the aim time by 9%, and sure, they're getting the 10% rotation speed on the turret. I personally still can't get behind the fire control system, but who am I to say while 6Q9 is putting on a masterclass here in the BT-42? Just can't help but feel that they would have done better by improving the accuracy overall by 9%, or alternatively, maybe getting a little bit of aim time and a little bit of accuracy from the vents, or definitely taking the vert stabs on this build. Alright, so the BT-42 now finds themselves in a 1 versus 3 after the KV-1 has been vanquished from the hill. This is 253 hit points against 1,679. The tension is high right now, with 6Q9 already up to a top gun, but still having 3 vehicles left on the enemy team to have to deal with. Will this be the day for one of the most unfortunate Finnish tanks that has gone into the game? I must talk about this tank just all in all. I think Wargaming did a really good job with the current Girls and Panzer crew, especially with the subtitles mod that you can find from the official Wargaming mod store. I think it's really fun. And I don't feel like these crews are the most annoying things like the original crew was. I feel like the original crew was like a parody of anime voices inside the game. Or maybe I've just been so accustomed to them that these voices now sound normal. I don't know. Maybe I'm embracing my inner weeb. I feel like I have to now. There's 3 different crews inside my garage, of which they are they're on tanks that I put inside premium vehicles as well. Although this one a little inflexible, and I could only put this one in the RU-251 instead of my Rheinmetall Panzerwagen. I think it would have been great just driving around in Onslaught playing the most competitive mode of World of Tanks, just having Japanese schoolgirls yabbering in my ear. That's definitely what we want. That is peak online video gamership. Talking about peak online video gamership. Oh no, the shell whiffs, but you didn't see that one coming. I thought that would have landed clean on the KB1 hull. And unfortunately, 6Q9 starts their 1 versus 3 in a fairly awkward fashion. Oh. You're right, Aki. He got him. He got him. Definitely 6Q9 shutting down the KB1 called Gaggy on the enemy team. And I tell you what, they are going to be gagging on that one now with that large shell going right through the vehicle. So now having vanquished just shy of half of the enemy team, 6Q9 finds themselves in a rather dubious situation. There is, to all intents and purposes, still 3/4 of the hit points on both of the enemy tanks. And we can see that the Panzer T25 has got level 350 in that vehicle, so they must be experienced. With 6Q9 showing inexperience there with the shell firing far too quickly when they weren't spotted, maybe thinking that the Panzer T25 was going to bomb it around the corner. At least waiting for that shell to reload, their stealth to go back up. Now they are concealed inside the bush, although the Panzer T25 looks like they're floundering out in the open. Oh, a bit like 6Q9's shells here, as they're unable to find the side of the Tier 5 German, although it is really a Czech premium medium tank that's as old as the game. Wow, 6Q9 definitely going through their shells right now. Now down to 8 premium heat shells on this tank, and they're going to have to hit this Panzer T25 at least a couple of times to be able to shut them down. And there we go. That's a good hit. That one did go right through. Now the T25 down to a 1-shot. They're going to actually try and rush 6Q9 here, go right towards them, and that should be an easy of easy shells. Oh, baby. How good is this tank? Lovely play into the bush there. The enemy just couldn't quite figure out what was going on. What they really should have done is just hidden in the cap cycle behind the rocks, but oh dear, the T1 Heavy appears, and 6Q9 narrowly avoiding the shell. Now that T1 Heavy is on 800 hit points, and the alpha damage of these shells is 370, meaning they're going to have to hit them at least 2 times if they ultra high roll, if not 3 times if they want to finish them off. And considering they have 6 shells left, 6Q9 has to be a little bit careful here, because the T1 Heavies, its armor isn't exactly awful. So a swing and a miss. Interestingly though, their 6th sense doesn't go off there. Does that suggest that T1 Heavies viewports were pulled back right behind the corner, or does that suggest the T1 Heavy has a terrible crew? Well, that doesn't usually happen so often anymore in World of Tanks. All crews have been moved up to 100%. Oh, there we go. 401 damage. That is a nice high roll, which now means that the T1 Heavy is a 1-shot pretty much about like 1 in 3, maybe 2 in, like 1 in 3 kinds of times here, maybe 2 out of 5 times, but unfortunately the shell ricochets off. Oh dear, 6Q9, now here's the timer go off with 1 minute and 45 seconds to have to hit this T1 Heavy at least once, if not twice. And they have 3 shells left. So it's a little bit of a game of kiss and chase right now, right? With the T1 Heavy definitely want to laying it down on this lightly armored tank. Now the T1 Heavy is going to have to shoot 6Q9 probably about 3 times to be able to finish them off here. So as long as 6Q9 can manage to get the jump on the T1 Heavy, they should have a good chance. As long as they don't allow the better rate of fire on the Tier 5 American heavy tank to be able to outtrade them. Oh dear, right behind the T1 Heavy. Oh, the gun handling on this vehicle and the awful gun depression really showing you how awkward this vehicle is. And look at that terrible turret traverse. It's not so bad when dealing with a lumbering heavy tank like the T1 Heavy. And it looks like the T1 Heavy decides that, I guess because 6Q9 is just trying to kite them, that they're actually going to go and try and force the cap circle. But what they haven't considered is there's only 1 minute left on the game, and that they need 1 minute and 40 seconds to be able to cap it out. But at least by going and sitting this position, the BT-42 isn't going to run away from them, and it gives them a chance to be able to hit them. Now, 6Q9 up to 4,600 damage with 35 seconds left on the game. Where is the T1 Heavy going to be? They're going to be right in front of them. They got 2 heat rounds left. They're going to be able to put one right through the front, but oh no, it gets absorbed into the tracks and their loader dies. Are they even going to be able to load another shell? They now have 20 seconds left, and remember, the base reload on this tank is like 14 seconds, so even with the gun rammer shaved off, it's going to take about 20 seconds to be able to get a shell in this vehicle with the dead loader. The T1 Heavy right in front of them. 10 seconds left on the game. 1 shell left with a dead loader. This is your final chance, 6Q9. Make it so. Indeed, Aki. Indeed. I cannot believe that one went in. With literally about 3 seconds left on this battle, that one clutched its way over the ridgeline with 6Q9 rolling the dice, taking the chance, and shutting down their adversary in this 1v1. This was 5,000 combined. It could not be any closer. And this was just an absolute freak of a game for an absolute freak of a tank. So 6Q9 manages to get the mother of all ace tankers here for 2,307 base experience. They eclipse their team's damage, pretty much doing as much as the rest of them combined, 5 times higher than the nearest, which was the VK Leopard on their team. They get a Pascucci's medal for destroying those 2 self-propelled guns, a Radley Walters medal for destroying over half of the enemy team, in this case 9. And the only thing I didn't like here is that 6Q9 fired 93,000 credits of ammunition. But remember, this is a premium tank, so they make 64,000 credits profit. Winning the game literally right on the buzzer. The battle duration was 15 minutes, and 6Q9 needed every second to take down this mother of all carries in this Finnish freak of a vehicle. So 6Q9, congratulations to you for this mammoth game of World of Tanks, and thank you so much for uploading it onto the What Replays website for the community to enjoy. I thoroughly did, and I hope all of you out there enjoyed this video today as well. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down, and let me know in the comments what you think about the new Girls and Panzer tanks, and especially the BT-42. Do you think it's awful, or do you think it's all in all been a good amount of fun? And if you're watching this video as it goes live on Monday, I'm going to be going live all day on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby with brand new drop tokens, so you can be able to edge closer towards your Cromwell Berlin, your Tiger 131, your Britannia Panther, or even your TOG. So really looking forward to help you all out live right now, and as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.